Hello everyone, I am Yive, once again to talk about Australian Survivor Titans vs Rebels, but this time we're talking about the merge, and when I say we, I mean me, alone, once again, going to be talking about the merge, Australian Survivor Titans vs Rebels. So before I go on a whole tangent, let's just talk about what the fuck I expected coming into this merge. I mean, for starters, number one thing I was expecting was like, I don't even know. To be honest, I don't know what the fuck I was expecting. I think there was a lot of different things at the time that I was like, this person's getting the winner's edit, this person's getting a using funniest edit, this person. But obviously, they've changed the edit for Australian Survivor, so I was wrong to think that. My apologies. Anyways, so I guess the thing to talk about for starters is like the dynamics going into the merge. So obviously, I'm my dumbass didn't put crosses over these people's faces, but half these people aren't even here. Well, almost half these people. I mean, they merged at 14, you know. So I guess the first thing to talk about is the fact that like it was a final two. It's a final two, and pray to Lord, they brought final twos back. Yeah, if it wasn't the final two, I'd be kind of sad, you know, because like the good part, what I'm a purist, so I'm one of those people who are like, you should never get a second shot in this game once you've been eliminated, unless you bring them out for a different season, and also that you're like, once it should be a final two, because if it's a final three, there's yes. I mean, you're always going to get one person who just kind of sits there and is kind of the joke of the jury. And I think that's pretty insulting for a person who has to sit there and take that crap, considering they also went through an entire journey as well and through the whole process, right? Unless you were left recruiting, which in that case, that's different. But that's still a lot of effort to get thrown out from wherever you're from just to get told, yeah, go home. So, you know that. The dynamics coming into the merge are just great. They're great. I mean, first of all, the middle-aged mafia, Eden, Mark, Carrion, and Kitty, the four of them are just divided. Like, there's cracks. There's cracks. Put it that way. Like, originally, pre-merge, I was like, oh, the middle-aged mafia is just gonna run shit. It's gonna be fucking boring. No, the middle-aged mafia had a falling out, but, like, none of them got cut. So it was kind of like the weirdest thing where it really was like the Mafia. It's like once you're in, but instead they decide to not turn on each other or at least pre-merge, you know, or even if they did attempt to turn on each other, it didn't really work out. So that was kind of funny. And it's the same with the Rebels. Well, not the Rebels. Same with like the Kirby Ferris sort of thing, where it's like they were after each other, but at the same time, they're kind of like frenemies in a way, which is what we see happen later on through the season, where like these enemies that we're seeing are kind of on the same page, you know. People like Alex and Ferris who had their differences put their stuff to the side and start working together. People like Kirby and Jaden who random pairing. Oh my god, never would have seen that coming. But I guess it makes a lot of sense based on how the season turned out. But when you're watching it, it's a completely different viewpoint. Another thing to talk about is Vieira and Carrion's messy ass relationship. They went from Vieira literally being like, I hate you, Carrion. Not being, okay, she didn't say she hated it, but she basically was just like, Carrion, you don't deserve to be in the game. Which, if I was Carrion and someone said that to me, my instant response would be, get fucked. Get fucked. You're dead. But you know, I mean, obviously they've had more time to process the game, but because there's normally an elimination every 2 to 3 days, it's kind of like, not good for your jury management, and it's also not good just in general because you're going to be forced to live with these people until they're eliminated. If you do go the entire step of the game, which is now 47 days. I don't know if it's going to stay 47 days. I hope it stays 47 days. Even though, personally, for me, I really liked how Australian Survivor was originally 55 days. I thought that was really cool. But, you know, as long as we don't go back to 15, we'll go back to, like... Because you might be saying, go back to 15, what do you mean? Well, in the US version, essentially, these people are talking about doing an Australian versus American season, and now everyone's talking about that, and apparently it's a possibly 15-day season, and then it got cancelled, and then it's, I don't know what's happening with that, alright? I'm not talking about that, but that is a mess. I think the funny part with, like, Titans vs. Rebels is neither original tribe is on the same page. Both tribes are divided as fuck going into this merge. And that you don't normally see that in Survivor, where like both tribes are just utter fucking chaos and have a bunch of fractions, and that people are willing to put down people from their own team, or I guess their original team, just because when you're on an original tribe with someone, the more time you spend time, the more you're on sorry guys, it's not. The more you spend time with someone, the more likely you are to build a bond with them, aka a stronger connection to people you haven't been on the team with, and then therefore your relationship is stronger, and therefore you vote out the people you're not close with, because that's literally the whole point of Survivor. But anyways, I think it's just interesting because you have like this kind of 4-person crew of Ferris, Eileen, Raymond, well, this trio sorta, and then you've kind of got Alex, who's kind of not really with anyone, or at least based on the edit, even though on Twitter, Alex was basically saying, "Oh yeah, I'm with Ferris," and I was like, "Come on!" I wish I had been told that, because if I was a casual watching that, I would have been like, "I genuinely don't know where Alex stands. I don't know," and I think that's the interesting part with Alex, where like all of his allies went home one by one, and it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of bad because it's kind of just like, oh, dude, he's like just some random person just sitting here as all your friends get voted off. Like that must feel awful. Like, but I mean, at least he went far. You know, that's an experience. I think another thing to talk about is like you've kind of got the Kirby, Scott, Rihanna crew going on. And I was like, damn. I was like, damn it. Like, I knew they were going to get broken up, but that trio was so good. I love them as a trio. They're amazing. The problem is what happens at the first merge tribal council, which we're going to talk about, obviously, where Scott decides to leave the game. And I was like, no, because Scott was my preseason winner pick, and that was awful. I was like, no, not Scott. He left the game. My preseason winner pick is gone, and I don't know what to do, right? Because obviously, when you pre-merge, it's more of like you guys drawing up battle lines and building your army to fight at the war, which is the merge. And they kind of just like for Kirby, for example. Kirby and Rihanna were like had this little army of them, Scott and Kelly pre-merge, and then Kelly goes wild. They send Kelly home. Scott leaves the game. Like poor Kirby and Rihanna, where they have built strong relationships with these people, but then due to factors that might have influenced the game and might have not influenced the game, led to their allies being taken out, essentially. And I think it's kind of interesting because I've spoken to Yuka about this, who, if you don't know who Yuka is one of my co-hosts for these podcasts, when we talk about, like, oh, okay, I want this, like, these people have a lot of social capital. These people can control the narrative. If they can kind of decide the trajectory of the game. And it was devastating. It was devastating, but it is what it is. I'm not going to cry over it, but I do think it's a bit sad because here I was feeling like Ferris was going to beat Kirby, which ended up happening. And just based on the edit, and because I'm a super fan, of course, I would be like, oh yeah, this is the edit, blah, 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 blah. And based on that, I was like, shit, now I know Kirby's going to use against Ferris in some way. And then it was like, oh, sorry, Kirby, all of your allies have been taken out, but which is not the way I thought it was going to go. I thought she was going to get like idled out, or like some twist was going to fuck her over because she seemed to be in the majority. She was running shit. But what are you going to do? I mean, this is Survivor, so just have to be adaptable, even though it sucks. And I think another thing to talk about with Scott leaving the game is who else's games were impacted by Scott leaving the game. Which I just want to start by saying, nobody send this dude hey or anyone hey, okay? This is just a game. Like, I understand that people care about it, which I, as a fan, yes, it was frustrating to see someone leave the game. However, I have no qualms about Scott coming back for a future season. If he is mentally ready to go, I want him back because I know he is a good player. I've seen it. And that's why he was my winner pick to begin with, because I was like, I can see the potential that Scott is providing us. And obviously we can talk hypothetical about how different the season could be, but we're never going to know. I mean, at some point, I will do a podcast with people and probably Yuka, and we will discuss that. But yeah, because you guys know, I love talking Survivor hypotheticals. And if we do talk Survivor hypotheticals, then like we're going to get a gist of all the stuff we wrote down and all the stuff we spoke about, and we're just going to spitfire. But that's a different podcast talking about just the merge in general. But I do think it's interesting because people like Eileen, Rihanna, Kirby, these people had relationships to Scott and their games were impacted by it. And we've seen on interviews, post-season, like people like Eileen have said stuff like, oh, it definitely hurt my game because Scott was someone I was going to go deep with, and we had this plan to turn on Kirby and Ferris at some point. And think about that. Think about how different the season could have been. Think about that. That's crazy. And it also would have been really juicy to see. Not gonna it would have been good TV, and it would have been good for them at games as well. And maybe Scott or Eileen could be the winner of the season. Obviously, you could say that with anyone, but I'm just saying. So I think that's interesting. I think another thing to talk about is that we entered the merge with 7 Titans and 7 Rebels, and I thought it was going to play more into the merge than it actually did. There was one tribal council that it did play into, the Eden Tribal Council, which, oh my god, that is devastating. That sucks. I also want to talk about some of these people just throwing random votes at people. I'm not really sure certain people's motives and reasonings, and I'm never going to get their reasonings, obviously, because, they're not going to... it's just not going to happen. But there are certain things where I think about, and I'm just like, I don't understand why people who are allies are voting differently, but then not queuing their allies in that they're changing their votes, if they are aligned. That doesn't make sense to me. The whole point is to remove someone every round and continue whatever structure you have, or at least that's how I see the game. And it's weird. It's fucking weird, but whatever. OG Rebels-wise, from the edit perspective, Alex is a fucking Yona. Alex's entire Cuddle and Crew alliance, or the Cuddle Crew, is gone. They're all gone. Which, thank you, Kirby, for naming that. That is... Oh god, it's so funny. It's so funny. But anyways, I hope we get more amazing names this season, because stuff like the Invisible Hand and stuff. We need more naming alliances in Survivor, so keep that going, guys. Whoever gets casted, please keep that going. I think another thing is you've got Eileen, and I don't know, it's weird because on the show, Eileen and Scott were shown as super close, but I knew, even though it wasn't on Reddit, that they would get along because they are both fans of the show, super fans, and they both kind of debatably ran OG Rebels, which you guys can disagree with, but that's my personal opinion with Kirby and whoever else, obviously, in different aspects. I think another thing to talk about is Raymond. Oh my god, Raymond is the funniest person of all time. I've met the dude, he's great. But like on this season, there were so many Raymond moments that I was just like, this is great. Like Raymond, like first of all, we can talk about Winner going home. Winner, what the fuck, dude? That boat was one of the messiest boats I've ever seen in my life. That was fucking crazy. Like, I literally, like, I'm a super fan, and it took me a moment to be like, okay, this boat, I was like, I don't understand what is happening, but I mean, hey, it was good TV. I think another thing to talk about is, like, after Winner goes home, Jaden kind of goes a bit psychotic, a little bit, like, which is fine. Like, do what you gotta do, bro. But I think people, like, as we saw, Eden get a little bit fucked over by that because of stuff, because of it. And I think it definitely speaks a lot to certain how people, like, first of all, super fans who knows. But sorry, guys, I'm off my mind. People who know the game versus people who don't know the game, how different their play styles are, and how they're going to react to different things happening. As someone like Eden would probably want, if let's say Mark got bullied off blindside or whatever, Eden would probably still play into it and be like, it's okay, it's fine, and not hold a grudge. But I think someone like Jaden, who doesn't know the game as well, is more likely to hold a grudge, therefore willing to fuck someone like Eden over, who he perceived as someone who wasn't with Winner and fucked Winner over, who was his boy. So I think it's definitely says a lot, and there should be a conversation about like the differences between recruits, people who know the game, and how people play the game differently. Because I definitely think that impacts the game in one way or another. I think another thing to talk about is like, let's say that, like, I mean, I've spoken to Eden in person about this because I went out to a bar with him and we spoke Survivor and stuff. I feel really bad because, first of all, we could have gone rocks. Imagine that. We could have gone rocks. That would have been fucking crazy and awesome. It would have been amazing TV. How good is it for people's games? I don't know, considering how those Giants literally broke instantly. Not super great, but I mean, we've got to give people like Kirby and Ferris credit there, where they noticed that something fishy was going on. They changed the boat last second. It's literally before Tribal Council. But I think another thing that makes me a little bit confused is why people, some of the Titans just kind of sat there and let it happen. Like, were they not paying attention? Like, I don't understand. Like, if I hear whispering at Tribal Council and I'm not sure what it's about, I'm an investigator. I'm not just going to sit there on my ass and be like, yeah, okay. Like, unless we pre-planned it, like my alliance had pre-planned it, like, okay, you're going to stand up and go over there and say this to whatever the thing is, right? I'm like, I want to be cheated on the boat. I want someone to tell me that. But whatever. I get paranoia. But, I mean, maybe they did and they just didn't show it just based on the edit because, different types of things. But I definitely think it's weird because, like, I feel like it just would rub me. Like, I feel like I would hear 99%. Like, if there's, like, multiple people being like, I feel like since you're sitting in rows, you would be able to see it most of the time, depending where you sat, which obviously does impact how the game is played as well, where you might be sitting next to an ally and you go, like, if you're behind people, like, normally they've done this in Australian, in US Survivor especially, where they put the women in front and the men in the back, and then people are like, oh, the women can't talk to each other because it's public where they are. And in Australian Survivor, they tend to put people next to people who they are aligned with or want to work with. Where if we're looking at these tribal councils, I mean, look at the first episode, look at who's sitting next to who at tribal. Jaden and Winner sitting next to each other. And it isn't just a natural thing. It's just one of the, like, it's not like they naturally get to pick where they sit at tribal council. Hello to the audience member who I see. Anyways, Jesus. It's not normal. Like, they don't get to pick where they sit, essentially. They don't get to pick where they sit. And I think for me, that's fucking weird. Like, I don't like that. I want them to be able to pick where they sit because I think it does impact the game. It impacts where the fuck what people are doing. And yeah, I mean, I could sit here and rant about the whole Eden Tribal Council for fucking 10 years, but I mean, we know how I feel about it. I think Eden was fucking robbed in a way, and I hope he comes back because, like, what a shitty way to go out. You're like, ugh, that's painful. Because literally, he got. And then the whole thing with a bunch of people not knowing what rocks are, I think also hurts the game. Where there's these people who were like, apparently Ferris didn't even know what rocks was, which I didn't find out until I spoke to Eden about it at a bar. So I think that's weird that, like, that, like, not even the winner of the season knew what rocks was, which I think is insane. But I guess it does show that anyone can win Survivor, and you don't have to know everything, even though Ferris did know, or at least it was the case you watching the show for a large majority of it, or at least with his family. I think another thing to talk about is, like, just, I don't know, there's just a lot to break down. Like, with the Eden Tribal Council, it didn't make sense because Jaden was immune. Jaden literally was immune at this Tribal Council, and he put himself in a potential minority, which, absolutely fucking not. I would not want to be in a minority. I am the type of player where if I have an alliance and I feel good with them, or I am voting a certain way, I'm going to stick to that vote. And if that fucks me over, that fucks me over. But if you're going to get rocked out, at least you go out in style. At least you know that you did everything in your power and you stuck with your gun. But obviously it depends how you see it. You know, people like Jaden, people like... So I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Basically, there's these people who know the Kitty. People don't really know what that is. And I think it definitely hurt certain people's games. But whatever, I could rant about that for 10 years. I think another thing to talk about is, like, after Eden goes home, how crazy was it? How crazy that Mark was able to get. It was literally that the Titans Alliance was literally Mark and a bunch of chicks. Like, that's hilarious. Like, hell yeah, Mark. Mark, Carrion, and Kitty, like, the rest of the middle-aged mafia managed to stay strong for the rest of the season, which is insane considering how the middle-aged mafia felt dead for a while. But it was like one of those things where, like, someone doesn't, it's like they're dating, right? They're all dating each other, and then it goes horribly wrong, and then they're just like, you know what, maybe we should try it again. It's like instead of getting a rebound, they are the rebound. Put it that way. It's like someone is throwing a boomerang and it's coming right back at them, or they're looking in the mirror and it's all four of them holding hands. No, jokes aside though. I think another thing to talk about is, like, let's just be real, guys. Let's just be real. Like, the fact that there was, I mean, I don't even know what to say at this point, to be honest, guys, because there's so much I want to say. Where, like, bloody Ferris just Ferris in general this season was fucking awesome. Let's just say that. But, like, I think another thing to talk about after Eden going home is just, like, the whole Bay Area situation of what the heck happened. That twist, look, full credit to Raymond for pulling that off. I understand. And if you don't know what it is, it was essentially just like a vote thing where if everyone votes for Raymond and he plays his advantage, it has to be unanimous. he is the one who decides to go home with this vote. Which I think disadvantage is very OP. Yeah, disadvantage is not fair, and I get it, Survivor isn't fair, and it's not supposed to be fair, it's about making good TV. But if I'm playing the game, I would be like, fuck that. Like, if I see someone, like, because obviously everyone has seen Scott leave the game, right? And be like, I'm tapping out, which is fine, and that's totally valid. But then Raymond to pretend like he was tapping out and then to get someone out. Like, if I was the area, I'm not going to lie. I would find it hard to want to vote Raymond to win if he got to the end, because I would personally feel like I didn't get a fair shot, you know? It's kind of like the Charles elimination where it's like, you're not really sure how you feel about it, because obviously, like, if you're Charles, you feel bad for them. If you're Eden, you feel bad for them, which obviously the Eden situation is different than like an actual twist coming into the game and impacting it. And I don't know how to feel about it, because it just makes me feel really, like, not good. Like, it's awesome the way it worked out, and personally, like, no shade to the area, I wasn't getting much from her by that point in the season, but at the same time, it's like, I did not like that. That twist was not good. But, you know, you're always going to get twists, so whatever. Hopefully, I mean, the good thing is we can talk about the non-eliminations being fixed, which is great. Like, I love that they fixed it, even though there were a few things that I said in the pre-merge podcast, as I said, where it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it's fine. Another thing to talk about is like, just, I don't know. I just think it's icky, and not in like a moral way. From like a game perspective, to pretend to quit and then someone gets eliminated. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that would piss me off. Like, and I know I literally just said that before, but like, it's just weird. Like, I don't get that, but it's fine. It's whatever. It was good TV. I think another thing to talk about is like, what is the deal with the idol situations? Like, the idols, like, I don't know what people are doing with idols, and we can talk about that with US as well, where Survivor US as well, where people are just like going home with idols in their pockets, or just fucking up really badly. But honestly, I don't blame people too much, because I get it, like, because I've played LRTs before, and it's a different experience, you know, especially if you don't have much time and you didn't get all information. It's hard to know and to read people and to figure out what the fuck you're gonna do. But anyways, I think for me, like, let's say, look, I personally feel like this part in the season, after the area goes home, the next few rounds are kind of like a drag to the end. They're kind of just like, you trying to grab it and pull it towards you slowly. Like, it's how I feel after I'm going on a run, which normally I go on like 5K runs. And it's like how I feel when I'm at the last K. I'm just like trying my best to finish, to get it over with, because I'm not a fan of running. But that's how it felt watching it. It was kind of just like, oh, this is, ugh. And I get that's how a lot of seasons are, where it's like, once you get to a certain point in the season, normally like final 9, the last few rounds tend to drag out a bit, because you're kind of just like, oh, what the fuck? But it's fine. I think another thing to talk about is like, just seeing some of these people's story arcs. I was definitely wrong with a lot of my predictions pre-season. Like, like, holy shit, man. Like, there were so many people pretty much who I was like, oh, they're gonna go far. And then they didn't. They didn't go far at all. And I was like, well, I'm stupid. Which, no, I'm not. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I just think it's interesting that we got so much content from people like Kirby and Ferris the entire season. people like Mark and Caroline. In hindsight, watching it back, I can see why each of them got the screen time they did, and it makes sense in my head. But as I said, with Yuka, like I genuinely thought Bavaria was gonna win. I thought it was gonna happen. And then it didn't. And then she got fucked over. I was like, and then I thought Alex was gonna win, and then he got voted out. And then I was like, oh, okay, so it's between Mark and Ferriston. But like, whatever. I think another thing to talk about is like how we feel about Caroline using in the final two. Oh my god. I have so much respect for Caroline as a person and in the game. Like, first of all, they didn't show her personality as much as I would have liked them to because she was fucking hilarious. I watched some of the X interviews she did like post game, and she's fucking awesome. I totally get why she was casted. Like, fucking amazing. Cast more people like Caroline, jeez. Like, about time. And I think another thing is like I felt like Caroline genuinely did play a pretty strong game. And yes, certain things were impacted, like the fact Scott left the game when Kitty was probably going home at Tribal Council at the first merge Tribal Council definitely would have impacted the game because she was tight with Kitty and stuff. But I don't know. As I said before, I could talk hypotheticals about it all day long, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I think another thing to talk about is like how I feel watching the season back in hindsight. In hindsight, awesome. I feel great about the merge. Yeah, I think it's good. I think the problem is, yeah, the ending is a good ending, but I think the merge was very hard to get through when it comes to like I don't know, it just felt really random to me. Like, it felt like the storyline didn't really make a whole lot of sense, which is totally fair. I get it, there's a lot happening and shit, but it definitely was like voting blocks. So it's like, okay, this person are going to vote together. Okay, we're going to vote this person out. Okay, next round, new alliances, new kid. It's like, I did not understand what was happening. I was like, I think another thing is like, let's say that they, oh my god, I'm talking so much hypothetical right now. Let's say that Scott didn't leave the game, and then it's just like, okay, what the fuck are the... Well, first of all, let's say if the area didn't have immunity for that weird round where she couldn't vote as well, because that was another twist that I didn't really understand. It definitely felt like production didn't really know what they were doing, which is totally fair. Like, I get it, please cast me for a strange survivor, but at the same time, I was like, I don't understand what you're going for, but, you know, it's fine. I think some of the dynamics were like, I don't know. I just felt like a lot of the dynamics this season felt like, well, at least merge-wise, didn't, like, on one hand, we were being told, oh, yeah, these are the alliances, these people want each other out. And then after we got to the merge, it literally looked like people just, like, couldn't be fucked to play the game anymore. like, no shade to people like Rihanna and stuff, but like genuinely, at the merge, I felt like there was so many people who I was like, oh, they're still in the game? Okay. I was like, which is totally fair. I understand you only have a limited amount of screen time to show people, which is totally fair, but I felt like it just didn't really make sense, you know? Like, because with Rihanna, we saw her find the idol, and then obviously that didn't really amount to shit. Even like Raymond, who got all the way to Final Four, like I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, what the fuck? I gotta say though, I do want to give Ferris credit though for his move when he decided to give his idol to Raymond and basically make Raymond find the idol in front of people, which amazing. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I would do that just because I feel like that's extremely risky. And we could all talk about how, say, Raymond took the idol and voted Ferris out. You're like, we've seen that before, but obviously, I don't know how much Survivor Ferris has seen. I don't know if he had seen that work out before or if he didn't know that was like a common thing people do. But either way, whatever. Like, I guess for me, I was just kind of like, well, strategically, it makes sense for Raymond to vote you out and take your idol, but he won't, and he didn't, which is totally fair. If he wants to play the game, well, I'm not going to fault him for that at all. I think for me, oh, okay, you know what? I've been waiting a long time to say this. Actually, the whole casting people who don't give a shit about the game in any way, like the merge challenge when it's down to winner and Jaden. When Jaden was like essentially just gave up immunity, like not gave up and like his body shut down, like literally was yapping and was like, I don't want it, it's scary. It's like, first of all, I'm not going to talk about how I feel about that because that definitely, rubbed me the wrong way. But anyways, I think the problem with this is the fact that you're like, it literally shows Mark literally like basically crying his eyes out, trying his best to win that challenge, and then Jaden just doesn't give a shit. Which like I understand from a TV perspective that's interesting, but if I was Mark, I would have been pissed. I think that alone, like obviously I would put game first instead of my emotions, but I think that alone would make me want to vote Jaden out. Like, that alone would make me be like, well, fuck that, because that's not it. But whatever. I think another thing to talk about is, can we just talk about the whole, just what is these promos this season that were fucking interesting as? Like, these promos were badass. I was like, what is happening in the promos? And here I sound like a 5-year-old speaking because my voice is like high pitched and shit now. I just felt, I was like, I don't understand what is happening with the promos. Like, on one hand, you've got like people, how do I even describe this? On one hand, you have like everyone being like, oh my god, guys, it's Titans versus Rebels. First of all, what the fuck? Are those even rivals? Are those? Like, is that is the Rebel an opposite of a Titan? Because isn't that the whole season theme? Like, I felt like that made no sense. And then secondly, I don't know. I don't know what. I wish there was the list where they decide who's a Titan, who's a Rebel, and what makes someone a Titan, what makes someone a Rebel. I want to see that list because I did not get that. I did not get that at all. And I understand that, from one perspective, it's kind of just like, well, we're just gonna throw shit at the wall and hope it sticks. But I don't know. It just felt fucking random to me, and I was just like, well, whatever. The Kirby and Ferris's rivalry has got to be one of my favorite rivalries of all time. Which I think a lot of people feel that way. I mean, first of all, with a name like Kirby, from Smash Bros, amazing. And then Ferris, Ferris wheel, awesome. Their rivalry was so good, and their bond and relationship was so good. And you genuinely feel like the good part with this season is you genuinely see the relationships form naturally, and it feels like you're out there with them, And when Ferris pulls down his hair, I was like, dude, I wish I'd seen that all season. Bro, I would have put down that hair the entire time. I think another thing to talk about is in hindsight, a lot of the reads I made were very wrong because I was like, oh yeah, Ferris and Kirby and Carrion and Kitty aren't gonna be a young. Well, they're not gonna go far because of this and that. But whatever. I was like, because they're rivals, they're not gonna go far. Well, that's all I really have to say about this. I think overall, it was a good merge. I think the problem with it is hopefully Brain vs. Brawn 2 can be better, but I just want to say, overall, this is the best Australian Survivor season of all time. Thank you all for watching, and peace out.